Okay, welcome back to Economics. This is Dr. Kling. Today's topic is perfect competition, which gets a lot of play in economics textbooks, but as I've said before, it's really not a very realistic description. Like monopolistic competition, there are many firms, but they sell identical products. It's often called commodities. When you have the same product, that's called a commodity. So what happens there graphically is sort of interesting. First of all, for each firm, the demand curve is horizontal or perfectly elastic. And so price equals marginal revenue. You can sell all you want at the going price. If you charge a penny more, you'll sell nothing. If you charge a penny less, you're giving up profits that you could easily get because you can always charge the market price. You can always get away with charging the market price and selling what you want. So in the short run, if there are profits in a perfectly competitive industry, let's see if I can draw that. So let me do this and this. So we have average total cost, marginal cost. You would produce here, that would be your Q star, and you would get a profit. Okay, so P minus, so profit. Now don't pay too much attention to this because you're not going to see this profit last very long. Profit equals price minus average total cost times quantity. Okay, so that was fine, but what happens, just as in a monopolistically competitive industry, the profits tend to zero. And again, the same thing, the same phenomenon occurs, namely entry of new firms. What will happen in this thing is that new firms will enter, and that will cause the price to come down. So if profits are greater than zero, entry drives the price down, and if profits are less than zero, exit drives the price up. And where will this end up? Well, we get an interesting story, which is where this ends up is where three things are equal to each other. Actually, maybe four things. Price is equal to marginal revenue. That's always true because we have this horizontal demand curve. Is equal to marginal cost, is equal to average total cost, is equal to the minimum of average total cost. Now you might remember that I proved that a few lectures ago that marginal cost equals average total cost at the minimum, or let's say at the minimum of the average total cost. So we can predict that if a perfectly competitive industry, the firms will enter and exit the market so that we just get to the point where marginal cost hits the minimum of the average total cost. So we can predict the quantity Q star for each firm in a competitive industry will be where marginal cost equals average total cost, which is the minimum, the low point of average total cost. So we know how much each firm will produce, And therefore, in a way, we can solve for the number of firms. Now, market demand will be downward sloping. So market demand will be something like, if it's linear, be sort of A minus BQ, and or might probably be better to solve it for Q, but I'll leave it that way. And then we know that Q star for each firm, let's say that just worked out to be 300 per firm, or we don't even need to use a number. Let's say that's we'll call that Q units of output per firm. If we go back to the demand curve and we say Q is equal to P minus A over B, trust me, I did the algebra right on that. That will equal the number of firms times the output per firm. So if the total market demand were, let's say, 10,000 or 100,000, and each firm produces 200, or let's just make it 100. Each firm produces 100, then we will have 1,000 firms in this perfectly competitive industry. So the number of firms rises or shrinks to get to the point where the optimal quantity based on that per firm times the number of firms gets you to the quantity demanded from the demand curve. And that's pretty much everything about a perfectly competitive equilibrium. It's in the long run, zero profits. So short run, marginal revenue equals marginal cost. That's always true. In the long run, marginal cost equals average total cost. Profits are zero. The difference between the short run and the long run is short run, there may not be time for firms to enter and exit. In the long run, there's been enough entry and exit, we've settled down to profits of zero. And that's it for perfect competition.